And we're back with the Odyssey, Book 17. How Odysseus returned to his own home. The boys are back in town. Odysseus and Telemachus have both returned to Ithaca, and they are about to go on the revenge tour of a lifetime. It's gonna get good. When the first rosy fingers of light appeared in the morning, young Telemachus lost no time in putting on his boots for the journey to town. Then he took up the good spear that fitted his grip so well, and called out to the swineherd, "Daddy, I'm off to town. I must show myself to my mother. I'm sure she will never stop weeping and wailing until she sees me my own self. Now then, listen to me. Take this poor devil to town and let him beg for his dinner. Any charitable soul will give him a cup and a crust. I can't carry the whole world on my back when I have troubles enough of my own. The stranger may be as angry as he likes, and much good will it do him. I am a plain man, and I say what I mean. So, let's not forget here that the stranger is Odysseus, still in disguise." Odysseus answered, "My friend, I have no wish to be kept here. A beggar's business is to beg for a bite, whether in town or in country. Any charitable soul will give. I am not of an age to hang about a farm at the beck and call of some jack in office. You go on, and this man will bring me as you say, as soon as I have warmed myself at the fire, and the day gets a bit hotter. These are a terrible lot of rags I have. The early frost may be too much for me, and you say the town is a good way off." Telemachus passed through the barton, and went off at a rattling pace, with his mind full of the coming fight. When at last he reached the great house, he stood his spear by the pillar and went in over the door-stone. Nurse Euryclea? Euryclea? We still haven't gotten that one yet. Nurse Euryclea? Euryclea. Could be Euryclea. Euryclea. That sounds nice. Nurse Euryclea was there spreading the sheepskins over the chairs, and she was the first to see him. She ran straight to him and cried over him. All the other women of the household crowded round, kissing and fondling his head and shoulders. Then Penelope, Euryclea, Penelope. Then Penelope came down herself, looking like Artemis or golden Aphrodite, and threw her arms about her darling son, cried over him, too, kissed his head and both his beautiful eyes, and said through her tears, "So you have come back, Telemachus, light of my eyes. I never thought to see you again after you went over the sea to Pylos secretly, without my consent, to seek the news of your father. Now tell me, what did you hear?" Telemachus answered, "My dear mother, don't let us have any crying. Please, don't harrow my feelings, even if I have escaped death. Take a bath, and put on a clean linen, and vow a solemn sacrifice to all gods if Zeus will grant us a day of reckoning. Now I am going down to the market to bring home a guest who came with me from those parts. I sent him ahead with the others, and I told Piraeus, to take him to his house and entertain him properly until I should come." That was what he said, but that arrow missed the mark. She knew not what he meant. See J.A.K. Thompson in Classical Quarterly, Volume XXX, page 1. The winged or feathered arrow flies straight. Unfeathered, it wobbles and does not hit the mark. Noted. She knew not what he meant. Then she bathed and put on a clean linen and vowed a solemn sacrifice to all gods if Zeus would grant a day of reckoning. But Telemachus went out, spear in hand, and his 2 dogs went dancing round him. He was full of enchanting grace, by power of Athena, and everyone stared at him as he walked along. All the pretenders crowded about him with pleasant speeches, but there was a hatred in their secret hearts. He kept clear of the crowd, however, and seeing a group of his father's old friends, Mentor and Antiphus and Halitherses, Halitherses? Halitherses! Halitherses. He went and sat down beside them to answer all their questions. By and by, Piraeus, Pirios, and by and by Pirios came along the street to the market, bringing his guest. Telemachus lost no time in joining him, and Pirios began, I say, Telemachus, be quick and send some of your maids to my house, and let me hand over the gifts you had from Menelaus. Telemachus said, Ah, my dear fellow, we don't know yet how things will go. If those headstrong men kill me secretly in the house and divide all my father's goods among them, I prefer you to have the things rather than one of them. But if I can manage to destroy those men, you may bring the goods to me, and I shall be as glad as yourself. Then he took home the unfortunate stranger, and when they got there, rugs were spread over the seats, and he was taken to the bathroom. After the maids had given him a bath and a good rub-down with oil, they gave him a change of clothing and brought him to a seat in the hall. The attendant poured him a hand-wash from a golden jug into a silver basin, and then placed a table beside him. The housewife brought bread and set dishes of food on the table. There was no stinting in that place. Penelope sat opposite with her seat against a pillar, spinning her fine thread. They helped themselves to the good things that were set before them, and when they had had enough, Penelope said, My son, I think I will go up to my room and lie down on my bed of sorrow, which has always been drowned in my tears since Odysseus left us for Ilion with the royal princes. And you would not condescend to tell me plainly if you heard anything of your father before all these rough men came in. Telemachus answered, Well, mother, I will tell you all about it. We went to Pylos and found King Nestor. He treated me handsomely in his great house, as a father would treat his own son who had returned after a long time from foreign parts. Yes, he treated me handsomely, and his noble sons did the same. But he had not a word to tell me of my unhappy father. He did not know if he were dead or alive, so he sent me carriage and horses, and sent me to his grace King Menelaus. There I saw that very identical Helen, who was the cause of that dreadful war about Troy, by the will of heaven. Menelaus asked me at once what brought me to sunny Lacedaemon. And I told him the whole story. This made him cry out. Upon my word, he says, they are a lot of cowards who want to lie in the bed of a strong man. It is like a deer who lays her newborn sucklings to sleep in a lion's den, while she ranges hills and dales for her food. Then the lion comes back to his lair and tears them to pieces, both dam and fawns. So Odysseus will come back and tear these men to pieces, O Father Zeus, he went on, and Athena and Apollo, if he could only be like what he was so long ago in Lesbos when he up and wrestled about with Philomelides, and threw him heavily to the delight of the nation. May Odysseus be like that when he meets these violent men. Short shrift would be theirs, and they would be sorry they ever wanted to marry. As to your questions, I would not shirk them or try to deceive you, but I will just tell you what the truthful old man of the sea told me. I will not hide or conceal anything. He said he had seen him in an island very unhappy, in the house of a nymph, Calypso, who is keeping him there by force. He cannot return to his native land, for he has neither men nor galleys to convey him over the broad back of the sea. That is what his king Grace Menelaus told me. When that was all done, I came back. The immortals granted me a fair wind, and brought me safely home. This tale moved her to the depths of her heart. Then the prophet Theoclymenus broke in, Honored lady of Odysseus Laertiades, indeed he does not know the truth. Pay heed to what I say, for I will reveal it to you and hide nothing. Who is this prophet Theoclymenus? Just breaking in. O Zeus, bear witness, first of all the gods, and this hospitable table. and the hearth of Odysseus where I take refuge. That Odysseus is verily now in his native land, resting or walking, and inquiring of all these evil transactions. Indeed he is, and he is planning the doom of these men. That follows from the omen I noticed while I sat on board the ship, as I told Telemachus at the time. Well, that would be the bird, right? The bird ripping the thing in half. That's the omen, right, that they saw. Penelope said, I pray, sir, that your words may be fulfilled. You would soon know my gratitude, and you should have a bounty enough from me to make others envy you. While these three were talking together, the intruders were amusing themselves as usual in the courtyard before the hall, putting the weight or casting javelins at the mark, bold and defiant. At that moment, out came Medon, who was their favorite servitor and always attended them in the hall. And he called to them, Come along, lads, now you've all had a good game. Let us think about dinner. Come along, dinner at noon is none too soon. They all jumped up and followed. Into the hall they ran and spread the rugs over the seats. They killed the big sheep and fat rams, killed the plump hogs and an ox from the herd, got ready their dinner. While this was going on, Odysseus and the swineherd were about their journey to town. The swineherd began saying, I see thou'rt eager to go into the city today, as my master said. Though for mysen I would rather leave these here and take care of the pens, but I respect him and fear him. And he would not scold me, sure enough. Masters have a rough side to their tongues. Come along, then, let us start. Already the day is pretty well done, and it gets cold towards evening. Odysseus answered, I see, I understand. I have some sense in my head. Let us start. You go in front and show the way, but if you have a good staff ready cut, let me have it to lean on you. To lean on, for you say it is a rare rough road. So he threw over his shoulders the musty old rag bag, and let it hang by the cord. Eumaeus gave him a stout stick. Then they started, and left the place to the dogs and hinds. The swineherd led, and behind him, like a miserable beggar, an old man huddled in rags, and leaning upon a staff, the master returned to his home. He's got to make an entrance. On they marched down the rocky path, until not far from the city they reached a spring of clear water, which fell into a basin of wrought stone. It was built by three brothers, Ithacos, Neritos, and Polyctor. Polyctor? No, it can't be, so that's got to be like an Polyctor. We'll say Polyctor. And if that's Polyctor, then it's what's his name? The other guy. Which was built by three brothers, Ithacos, Neritos, and Polyctor. And the townspeople used to draw their water there. A clump of poplars grew all round their beloved water, and the cool water fell from high up the rock in a cascade. Above it was built an altar for the nymphs, where all wayfarers made their offerings. At this place, they were met by a man driving the best goats of the different flocks for the glutton's dinner. His name was Melanthius Sodolius, and two hinds were with him. As soon as he saw the two men, he broke into taunts and foul language which made Odysseus indignant. Here's a procession, rags in the rear and tatters in the van. It's always like to like, as the proverbs say. Where did you pick up this dirty pig, you dirty pig man? The beggar, this nuisance, this spoil sport. He'll stand and rub shoulders on many a doorpost, begging for scraps. He's not the sort that goes begging for my lord's guest gifts. Not a gentleman who would receive a grand parting gift from the base man's point of view, that is only another kind of beggar. Give me the man to look after a steeding, or sweep out a sty, and carry a load of green stuff for the kids. He might drink buttermilk till a got a good fat thigh. But this man has learnt only how to do mischief. He won't do honest work. He'll only go cringing about the town, and begging for something to feed his greedy belly. I'll tell you one thing, and that you'll find true. If he pays a visit to Odysseus' house, he'll find a shower of footstools flying about his ears and barking his ribs. He will be pelted out of the place. As he spoke, the fool landed him a kick on the hip, but Odysseus stood firm as a rock. Kicked him in the hip? Odysseus stood firm as a rock? And it did not move him an inch. He thought for a moment that he would kill the man with a blow of his staff, or lift him by the waist and dash his head on the ground. Yet he controlled himself and bore it. But the swineherd rated the man. When he heard all this, he held up his hands to heaven and lifted up his voice in prayer. O ye nymphs of the fountain, O ye daughters of Zeus, if ever Odysseus made burnt offering to you, grant me this grace, that man may return and Providence may bring him home. Then, man, he would tear all the pumps and fripperies off thy back, and tha'd not go flaunting it through the streets while the herdsmen play the devil with thy sheep. Melanthius the goatherd answered, Bless us all how the son of a bitch does talk. What malice is in his mind. I'll bundle him on board ship one fine day, and carry him a long way from Ithaca, and make good profit out of him. I only wish Apollo would shoot Telemachus with his silver bow, or the fine gentleman would make an end of him. As surely as Odysseus is dead and far away and will never come home. Ooh. With this he left them plodding along, while he made haste to his master's house, and joined the company in hall. He sat down opposite Eurymachus, who favored him particularly. The servants brought him food, and the housewife bread, as usual. By this time Odysseus and the swineherd had reached the place. They stood still, and the music of a harp came to their ears, for Phemius had just begun to sing. Odysseus took the other by the hand and said, Eumaeus, surely this is the great house of Odysseus. It is easy to see that this is no common place. Building upon building, courtyard with wall and coping complete. Coping? Coping. And coping complete. Strong double doors. No one could turn up his nose at a place like this. I notice that there is a large company at table in there, for I can smell the food, and there is the sound of a harp. And by heaven's decree, no harp without a dinner. Eumaeus answered, That's seen that easily enough, for thou'rt no fool. But now let us decide what to do. Wilt go into the house first and join the company, and leave me here? Or sooner stay thee here, and I will go first? Don't be long about it, or someone may see thee outside and drive thee away with stones. So be careful. Odysseus answered patiently, I see. I understand. I have some sense in my head. You go first, and I'll stay here. I am not unacquainted with hard knocks and valleys. My heart is hardy, for I have suffered much on the seas and the battlefield. This will be only something more. But a ravenous belly cannot be hid. Damn the thing. It gives a world of trouble to men, makes them fit out of fleets of ships and scour the barren sea to bring misery on their enemies. Keeps me getting hangry. As they were talking together, a hound that was lying there lifted his head and pricked up his ears. This was Argos, whom Odysseus himself had bred and trained, but he had not had much good of him before he went away to the war. Formerly the young men used to take him out to hunt wild goats or hares or deer, but there he was, lying neglected, his master gone, on the midden, where the mule dung and cow dung was heaped in front of the gates, ready to be carted out to the fields. There lay Argos the hound, covered with vermin. When he knew that it was his old master near him, he wagged his tail and dropped both his ears, but he could not move to approach him. Odysseus saw, and secretly wiped a tear from his eye, so that Eumaeus did not notice. Then he said to him, Eumaeus, I am surprised to see this hound lying on a dung heap. He looks like a fine animal. But of course, I don't know if he has speed to match his looks. or if he is just one of those table dogs a man keeps. Something for the master to show off. Eumaeus answered, well, to be sure, his master is dead and far away. If he looks and his powers were now what they were when the master went away and left him, tha'd see his big strength and speed. Never a beast could escape him in the deep forest when he was on the track, for he was a prime tracker. But now he has fallen on bad times. His master has perished far from his native land. And the women care nowt and do nowt for him. That's like your serfs. When the master's hand is gone, they'll not do an honest day's work. Aye, Zeus all-wise takes away half the good of a man when the day of slavery catches him. So saying, he entered the well-built mansion, and made straight for the riotous pretenders in the hall. But Argos passed into the darkness of death, now that he had seen his master once more, after 20 years. Telemachus saw the swineherd coming before any of the others, and at once gave a nod to call him. The man looked round and picked up a seat which lay near where the carver used to sit when he was serving out meat to the company. He carried this to the table where Telemachus sat, and took his place opposite. The servitor brought him bread and a plate of meat. Close upon him Odysseus entered his own home, like a miserable beggar, an old man leaning upon a staff and clothed in rags. He sat down on the wooden floor inside the doorway, supporting himself on the doorpost of the cypress wood, which some craftsman had pared and polished so well and made straight as a plumb line. Telemachus called to Eumaeus, and taking a whole loaf out of the basket, with as much meat as his hands could hold, he said to him, Here, take this and give it to the stranger, and bid him go round the tables and ask a dole of everyone. When want is by, you mustn't be shy. The swineherd went as he was told, and said, Telemachus sends this, stranger, and bids thee go round the tables and ask a dole of everyone. He says, when want is by, thou mustna be shy. Odysseus said, O Lord Zeus, grant that Telemachus may be happy in the world, and may he gain all that his heart desires. Then he received the food in both hands, and laid it down before his feet upon that dirty bag, and ate while the minstrel sang. As he ended his meal, the singer ended his song, and the unwelcome visitors made a great noise in the hall. Athena stood near Odysseus, and whispered that he should go round and beg bread of the company. To learn who were decent men and who were lawless. But he was not to save any of them in that way. But she was not to save any of them in that way. So he went round the company right ways, and held out his hand in all directions, as if he were really an old beggar. They were sorry for him, and gave. They were surprised also, and asked each other who the man could be, and where he came from. Then Melanthius, the goatherd, up and spoke, and says he, Gentlemen, who are courting our illustrious lady, I can tell you about this stranger. I have seen him before. The swineherd was bringing him along, but I don't know exactly what part of the world he comes from. At this, Antinous began to rate the swineherd. Oh, you notorious swineherd, what made you bring this fellow to town? Haven't we vagrants enough and beggars enough? Confound them! A perfect nuisance at dinner time? Aren't you content that they come here in crowds and eat your master's substance, but you must invite another besides? Eumaeus the swineherd said, Maybe thou'rt one of the gentry, sir, but that's not the rede of it. Whoever goes himself and invites a stranger from abroad, unless it be one who serves the public, such as a prophet, or a physician, or a clever craftsman, or may it be a heavenly singer to give pleasure at a feast. Men like these are invited all over the world, but no one would invite a beggar to burden hissin with, but thou'rt always the most harsh of all the company to my master's servants, and especially to me. But I don't care so long as my gracious mistress lives in the place and my noble young master Telemachus. Telemachus said to him, Be quiet, don't talk so much. That's his way, to provoke us with hard words, and he makes the others do the same. Then he told Antinous what he thought of him. How kind you are to me, Antinous. You might be a father teaching his son when you tell me to chase the stranger out of the house, and let might be right. God forbid. Give him something. I don't grudge it. I tell you to give. In this matter, pay no attention to my mother, or any of the servants about the house. But that is not your way. You like eating better than giving. Antinous answered, What a lofty oration! What an exhibition of temper! If all the rest of the world give as much as I do, this house would see no more of him for 3 months to come. His feet were resting on a stool under the table, and as he spoke, he stooped and pushed it up so as to show it over the top. But the others all gave something. The beggar filled his bag with bread and meat, and it seemed likely he would have his taste of all the men scot-free before he went out. But when he came round to Antinous, he said to him,
Give, my friend. You seem to me no common man, but the highest in the nation, for you look like a prince. Then you ought to give even more than others, and I will sing your praises over the wide world. I once had estates myself in the world. I lived happy in a rich house, and often gave to a homeless man. Whoever he was and whatever he needed, I had serfs in thousands, and everything else by which men live well and get the name of riches. But Cronion ruined me. Such was his will, no doubt. He tempted me to lead a raid of pirates upon Egypt, and all that long way, that I might come to destruction, I moored my ships in the river Aegyptus, and directed men to stay by the ships on guard while I sent scouts to different places of view. But the scouting parties ran wild and let themselves go, scouring the countryside, destroying the fine crops, carrying off the women and children, killing the men. Soon the news came to the city. At dawn they all sailed out, and soon the whole plain was covered with men and horses and the glittering of arms. Then Zeus Thunderer sent a panic among my men, and not one would stand to strike a blow. Death and destruction was all around. There the enemy killed many of us with cold steel, and others they took alive to be their slaves. But they gave me to some friend who met them. He was Demeter Eucides, the king of Cyprus, and he carried me to Cyprus. From Cyprus I am now come to this place, one trouble after another.
Antinous said, What bad luck has brought this nuisance to spoil our dinner? Just stand clear, will you, and get away from my table, or you may wish you were back again in Egypt or Cyprus. What a bold-faced, shameless beggar it is. You stand by each man one after the other, and they don't care what they give. There's no need to be stingy. Why should they have mercy on other men's goods when there's plenty here? Odysseus said, Upon my word, your heart's not like your looks. You wouldn't give a grain of salt to your own housekeeper out of the pantry. If you sit by another man's table and can't let yourself stretch out a hand and give me a bit of bread, there's plenty here. Then he moved away. This put Antinous in a fit of rage. He frowned and said straight out, You shan't leave this house with a sound skin after that piece of rudeness. Then he picked up the footstool, and he threw it, and hit him full on the back under the right shoulder. But Odysseus stood firm as a rock. The blow did not move him. He only threw back his head silently, and brooded over his vengeance. Once more he took his seat by the threshold, and laid down the bag full of doles. Then he called out to the company, Hear me, you gentlemen who pay court to the illustrious lady, and let me say what is upon my mind. There is really no resentment or bitterness in a man's mind when he is struck in defending his own goods or cattle or sheep. But Antinous has hit me in a base cause, the belly, damn it, which brings many troubles upon mankind. Now if there are gods and avengers for beggar men, may Antinous come to burying before he comes to marrying. Ooh. Antinous answered very little like his father's sweet reasonableness. He was the son of Euphaites, the soft persuader, whose name is brought here with a touch of irony. Sit quiet and eat, stranger, or go somewhere else. If you go on talking like that, the young men will drag you out by a leg or an arm and strip the skin off your body. Oof. This was too much for the others. Rough and rude as they were, they resented it strongly. And one or another would say, You ought not to have hit the poor vagrant Antinous. Curse it all, man, suppose there really is a god in heaven. Sometimes gods make themselves like strangers from foreign lands, all sorts and conditions of men, and visit the cities of mankind to watch their doings and to see whether they are good or evil. These are 3 independent outcries. There should be a stop after line 484. Okay. Full stop. Everyone's just crying out. Antinous, I don't know, man. Antinous took no notice, but Telemachus nursed bitter resentment in his heart for that blow. Yet he did not shed a tear, only shook his head silently and brooded over his vengeance. When Penelope heard of the blow in the hall, she said to her women, "So may Archer Apollo strike him." And the housewife Eurynome added, "Oh, that our prayers might be fulfilled. Then not one of them would see morning dawn." And Penelope said to her, "Nurse, they are all hateful and full of evil thoughts, but Antinous is most like Black Death. A poor stranger comes begging bread of those men. It is not his fault. He is destitute. All the others give him something, but this man throws a footstool at him and hits him." So she talked with her maids in her own room, while Odysseus was having his meal. By and by she sent for the swineherd, and said to him, "Go, my good Eumaeus, run and tell the stranger to come here. I want to bid him welcome, and to ask if he ever heard or saw anything of my husband. He seems like a great traveler." Eumaeus said, "Oh, my lady, if they would not make all that noise down there, what stories he do tell. He would bewitch the heart in thee. 3 nights on end I had with him. 3 days I kept him in my hut. For I was the first he come to after escaping from that ship. And I han't yet come to the end of his tale of tribulation. It's like one of those singers who learn their lovely songs from heaven. He sings and they all stare at him and listen hard and never want him to stop. He bewitched me just like that in my lodging. Says he is a friend of the master's family and lives in Crete where the house of Minos rules. So he started from Crete and got as far as this after great hardships. Rolling on and on and on, sticks to it that he had heard of the master close by, in Thesprotia, and alive too. The master has a cargo of treasures to bring home." Penelope said at once, "Go and fetch him. I want him to tell me face to face. As for those good men, let them have their jollification, let them play outside or here in the house. They are merry enough, and why not? Their own stores and cellars are full of bread and drink. Nobody touches it but the servants, while their masters haunt our house every day, killing oxen and fat sheep and goats, feasting and drinking our fine wine recklessly. And so it all goes. For there is no man like Odysseus at the head, to drive this curse from the house. If only Odysseus would come back to his own country, he and his son would soon punish the men." And as she uttered these words, Telemachus gave a loud sneeze, which made the room ring again. Penelope laughed aloud and cried out point blank, Go, call the stranger, bring him to me. Don't you see how my son gave a loud sneeze right upon my words? That means that death will come upon all the intruders. Yes, all, not one shall escape. And mark this, if I find that the man is telling the truth, I will fit him out with fine clothes to wear." The swineherd went off as he was told, and cried out point blank to Odysseus, "Gaffer, the mistress wants tha, the young master's mother. Tha knows shas a mind to hear about the master poor dear. And if she finds tha telling the truth, thou'lt get a fine ring out, and high time too, and the freedom of the town, to go a-begging and fill thy belly, for any charitable soul to give what a will." Odysseus, patient as ever, replied, "By and by, Eumaeus, I will tell everything honestly to your noble lady, for I know all about him, and we have endured the same hardships. But I fear this mob of dangerous men, whose violence and presumption affront the brazen sky. You saw just now how that man struck me a painful blow, when I was only walking about the hall and doing no harm. Telemachus did nothing to stop him, nor did anyone else. Now then, tell the lady to wait in her room until sunset, although she be anxious, of course. Then let her ask me about her husband's return while she sits quietly by the fire. I am not properly dressed, as you know yourself, for I appealed first to you." Eumaeus came back with his message, and as he stepped over the threshold, Penelope said, You haven't brought him then, Eumaeus. What's the man in his head? You haven't brought him yet then, Eumaeus. What has the man in his head? Is he afraid of ill treatment or just shy of being seen in the house? Shy beggar is bad beggar. Eumaeus answered, He talks good sense, just what anyone else would think if wants to keep clear of rowdy men and their heavy hands. He says, Wait till sunset, thou'lt find it better for thy own sake, my lady, to be alone when you have your talk. Penelope said, The stranger is no fool. He guesses what may well happen. I don't think there are any other men alive who go on in this wild, reckless way. The honest swineherd had no more to say, so he returned to the dining hall. There he sought out Telemachus and told him straight, in a whisper, putting his head close, that the others might not hear. My honey, I'm going now, to look after my pigs and all that, thy living and my living. Thy business is here. Take care of this and first, and don't run into trouble. Many of the people bear thee ill will, and may God blast them before they do any harm. Telemachus answered, That will be all right, Daddy, but have supper before you go, and tomorrow drive down your pigs. I will manage the rest, with heaven's help. The swineherd sat down again, and had a hearty meal. Then he left the house, and went after his swine. Okay. It's all coming together. See you next time for Book 18, How Odysseus Fought the Sturdy Beggar. So Odysseus, posing as a beggar, is going to fight another sturdy beggar? Is he just going to have another run-in? That's what it sounds like. We'll see you next time.